The 80-20 rule in business. For the average business, just about 20% of the things you focus on in your business actually produce about 80% of your revenue. And as a business coach in the industry I'm in, we have found that there are 5 key areas that make up that critical 20% of revenue generating activity. More leads, more conversations, more transactions, higher prices, and more profits. And in my organization, we call that the 5-step profit formula. And the 5-step profit formula will be the foundation for kind of how we're going to go through the rest of the topics for today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these 5 steps, and we're going to cover 8 different strategies today that essentially could be meaningful for your business. Now, in our arsenal, we have about 30 total strategies that we basically can educate people on and have video training and other things like that on. But these are the 8 that are generally most applicable to people out there in the world in the small business arena. So we're going to cover the first one, which is how to make advertising work for your small business. And since many of you know Ricky, you may already know a lot of this, so I apologize because she's such a great educator, but it's always good to reinforce it and go through this. So this strategy really focuses on the first 2 steps, more leads and more conversions. And what do we mean by that? More leads is basically, filling the funnel, just, talking to more people. But what do we mean by more conversion? What a conversion is taking someone who maybe when you meet them, they're not a now buyer, but they're a future buyer. And so a conversion is basically getting buyers, down the buyer's journey. And we're going to talk a little bit about what the difference is between now buyers and future buyers and how to potentially move clients along that path. So the keys to successful marketing is you must be able to enter the conversation taking place in the head of your prospects regarding the topic, regarding your offerings. Or another way to look at it is to address the #1 question in your prospect's mind at the right time. And is that kind of, should I do this? Why shouldn't I do this? And then if I've decided to do it, who am I going to do it with, and when am I going to do it? So those are kind of the 3 major phases that we saw in the buyer's journey. And ultimately, all of us are either looking to solve a problem that a client has and they don't want, or we're looking to help them achieve a goal or a result that they want to achieve, but they've not been able to on their own. That's really the fundamental aspect of any offering. So let's talk about what we call the conversion equation. And this has to do with how advertising is structured. The goal is to interrupt, engage, educate, and then offer. And the interrupt is basically your headline. It's your 30-second speech. It's your elevator pitch. It grabs people's attention and gets them excited about wanting to learn more. Sorry. Engage is your subheadline. It should be informative. It should provide a little bit of context around your headline in terms of what you mean by it, or details regarding details regarding your the type of problem that you solve. Then there's the educate. This is where, as most small business owners, we love what we do. We love to, many of us are teachers, many of us are technicians in our specialty, and this is where you're providing information to your prospects on what your product and service is, why is it superior to your competition, and what value can you bring to your clients. And then the offer. The offer must be so compelling and irresistible that your prospects just can't turn it down whenever it's made. They recognize the value and they're willing to move forward. So given email marketing and internet marketing, right now it actually takes an average small business who's not using and who hasn't deliberately organized their advertising and follow-ups with using the conversion equation, it takes them an average of 20 to 100 touch points before a prospect will make a buying decision. And by following the conversion equation and being very thoughtful about exactly how you're engineering your conversion, your advertising and conversion and lead follow-up process, you can actually reduce that down to between 5 and 12 touch points and contacts in order to get a prospect to make a buying decision. The biggest challenge is most businesses don't follow up with their prospects at all. You know, and this provides a huge window of opportunity for any business that's currently only being able to capture what we call the now buyers. If you're not following up with your prospects at all, or if it's something that falls off the plate every time that you get busy implementing and doing your work, then essentially you're only capturing that very small, you know, less than 1% of the people on the buyer's journey that are called now buyers. So let's give an example of a child psychologist that we worked with. And essentially, Dr. Smith was phenomenal. This was his original website whenever we met him, but his specialty is teenage kids in crisis, and you know, and basically parents who are dealing with kind of argumentative and you know, kind of troubled children from preteen up to 18. And his website was nice. It looked nice, but it was somewhat inconsistent with his specialty. So you can see in the upper right-hand corner, there's a picture of a happy dad and kid, and then he just had parenting advice and resources from Dr. John Smith. Perfectly nice. The video he had here was very perky, very upbeat, very kind of, you know, hey, you know, things are great here. You know, you can find everything you need on my website. Wonderful man, presented well. But if I'm a parent who has a screaming child at 2 a.m. and I'm looking for help, you know, if I don't know exactly where to go on his website, it's not necessarily going to be useful. The other thing is he kind of was trying to be a little bit of a jack of all trades. So when in his specializing list, he had 9 items. And it's kind of like, okay, I see the list, but what do you really do? How can you really help me? And the biggest thing on his website was his offer to the far right, the free consultation. They had to pick up the phone, call during business hours because they don't answer the phone during outside of business hours, schedule an appointment and come in order to claim his free offer on his original website. And the vast majority of small business owners just have this, hey, call us, or at most a contact us page. So let's look at, these are the numbers associated with his original website. There was an average of 300 leads per month coming in. So his advertising was working wherever he was putting his ads out and however he was getting leads to his website. About 10% did call to ask for the consultation. Out of that, about 3 after calling in actually did consent to the consultation. And he's a phenomenal closer. Once a prospective client was in front of them, he basically closed everybody. Everybody who actually came in to see him became a client. And so he basically had, once they actually were in his office, 100% close rate at the time that we started engaging with him. So now let's talk about how we applied the formula for him. We gave him a new headline, and we created what's known as a landing page. And it's, are you sick and tired of yelling and screaming belligerent attitude to your child? So this is the headline. This is what you're searching for at 2 o'clock in the morning if you have a troubled child in your household. And then our subheadline, which is the engage part. So interrupt, engage, and then educate. We sat down and we re-scripted his video and basically had it to be more focused on the specific challenges of, in the moment gaining control, and approaches to gaining control of the situation and interacting with their kids. And most important, we lowered the threshold for the offer and gave an immediate offer ability. So we basically said, look, give us your first name and your email address, and I've taken all the great resources that I have. We had them put together a short brochure with the top 5 things that they could try right now. And it would be immediately sent to them via email so that they could actually begin to use some of his guidance in real time. Now, one of the key things as business owners that whenever we're talking with our prospects is how do we quantify business results? And the way that I and my team do this is basically through what we call profit acceleration software. And it's a structured interview process that quantifies your expected financial impact in revenue, gross profit, net profit, business valuation, and more. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to be giving you examples like the doctor of actual real clients, but I also want to walk you through from a numbers perspective a complete example, end-to-end example of how we would use this profit accelerator software for a prospective client. And so, but in this example, in the screenshots I'm going to share with you today, we're only going to be focusing on revenue and net profit, not on any of the other metrics. So the example business that I'm going to use end-to-end throughout the presentation is a high-end widget maker who basically was only selling his widget online, and he had a 50% margin. He'd been in business for about 15 months. He had organized a remote production and drop ship supplier. So he had very low overhead. So he worked from home, and he had taken out some loans to augment his startup process. Generally speaking, his financials for that first year were $75K in revenue, gross profit margin, obviously, of 50%, as previously stated, and a net profit of 30% for his first year. Not too bad. I'm going to skip the valuation questions for today. So here's a screenshot of Profit Accelerator software. And when I say we go through a structured interview process, I'm not going to take you through each and every question, but what I do want to show you is how things like a market dominating position, which is essentially what we were working with the doctor about, okay, what makes you different? What do you specialize in? Those types of questions. With the market dominating position, we were able to determine with the widget maker in this case, that by becoming more concrete about the benefits of his product and some other strategies, that we would be able to have a 5% impact on revenue in one area and a 5% impact on the revenue in another area, and that would lead to a cumulative new net profit. So the numbers we'll see rolling up here in the right-hand corner are cumulative net new profit. And so it's basically determining the increase in profit. Leads. So with the widget maker, we basically were able to sit down and talk about, okay, here's where you're advertising now, where else can you advertise, and or what are other strategies for getting the word out. And we were able to determine that he could basically get an estimated 7% increase in revenue by increasing how he was getting leads in. Apologies. And that would increase his rolling net profit up to 30%, by 30%. And then same thing for internet marketing. Similar types of strategies we talked about. Possibly advertising on additional. He wasn't doing Instagram, and this was an Instagram specific. He wasn't doing Instagram, and his product was very. Apologies. Let me get a sip of water. His high-end widget was very Instagram friendly, and so we crunched some numbers and determined he could potentially increase it by 7. So those are the critical elements of kind of and how we start quantifying changes that you can make using the conversion equation. The next topic is joint ventures and how to build business fast using your joint ventures. Going back to the 5-step profit formula, joint ventures are really in the more leads category, and we'll show you why that is. A joint venture usually involves 2 or more businesses that decide to form a partnership to share their markets and endorse specific products or services. And they're usually under some type of a revenue share arrangement, which is an affiliate, kind of more of an affiliate type of agreement, or they can just be a flat referral fee as well. So there's several of these event chains are more well-known, such as like real estate. You know, it's like whenever you're buying that, you know, every real estate agent has a mortgage broker that they recommend. But I wanted to take an event chain that's maybe less obvious. Sorry. And that's the wedding industry. So for this example, we're going to talk about florists. So the florist knows, you know, they was able to work and identify one or 2 jewelers, chapels, wedding dress, and if from the florist's perspective, they could obtain just 1 referral each month from just one of the businesses above them. 1 referral a month, you know, from any of the businesses that are above them, and then they could send that referral down to each of the businesses that are lower on the chain, and and make sure that whoever gets referred to them also gets referred to the other joint venture partners if the referral hasn't already contacted them. What can that mean for the florist is the average florist sale is $3,000 for a wedding. And with just that 1 additional referral per month, that means an annual increase in $36,000. And then let's say the florist is referring to her favorite baker who produces the wedding cakes. Let's say the wedding cake is also $3,000, and the florist has negotiated a 10% referral fee. Then those same 12 customers, those same 12 customers that referred to her, if they also select that baker, she could get an additional $3,600. So that means basically $39,600 from 1 referral coming into her business and doing business with her, and then her referring it back out to the baker. So that's essentially a joint venture formula. With our high-end widget maker, originally he didn't have any ideas for joint ventures. It was kind of like, well, you know, I make this widget and then I sell it, and that's what I do. And by sitting down and really brainstorming, we were able to come up with a couple, you know, with at least 1 key joint venture and potentially another one and he got really excited about it. And so we were able to kind of convince him that with one of them, he would be able to potentially increase his revenue by 5% by using this type of a profit-based or referral strategy. The next topic is what we call downselling, and essentially, I don't know how many of you are familiar with downselling, but essentially we call it how to downsell your way to wealth. This has to do with more transactions. This has to do with once people are in your funnel and they're there and you're talking with them and they're in front of you, they're a now buyer. This has to do with you know, giving yourself the best opportunity to convert them into a client. So downselling is essentially someone who declines your initial product or service offering at the point of sale, and you have in your back pocket offers, alternative offers that are at a lower price or at, say, a lesser commitment, you know, whatever the objection is. And the goal is basically, like I said, to convert that now buyer into a client of some form versus having them walk away entirely. Classic examples of downsells are health clubs. You know, you walk in and they want to give you a 1-year gold membership program, and yes, you get a discount for it. but you're like, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna like this. I don't know if I like your gym. It's like, I don't think I want to commit for a year. Then they say, well, okay, let's do a 90-day health makeover. That's, again, lowering the commitment bar in terms of the initial purchase. And if they still say no to that, frequently they'll give you a 1-week trial membership. Come in, try it out. After you've really enjoyed our services, then you can come on in, and we can put you in one of the other 2 programs. And so health clubs classically have really good downselling programs. So let's go back to our florist. Let's say that someone comes in and they're initially looking for a dozen roses, and they haven't been in the market for a dozen roses recently, and it's $50. And they're like, oh, I wasn't really anticipating spending that much. I was really looking to spend about $25. So, converting just one person who was originally coming in the door to buy a dozen roses, converting them from a $50 client to a $25 client, if you just convert one of them a day, that's an additional $8,000 in revenue annually. And that's just one downsell opportunity. They could have, different price points and packages, and for funerals, for weddings, and so on. So with the high-end widget maker, convincing him that he had a downsell was a very entertaining process, because, again, he was very laser focused on what he was doing initially and in his original vision. But we were able, once he caught on and understood, he did realize that there was an alternate version of his product that he could offer to his consumers that would make it more accessible in the market. And he was a little concerned about branding, and so we also talked about even offering these under the 2 different widgets under different brands. So this one will take a little longer to implement, as he hasn't quite implemented it yet, but we have a strategy that we've come up with. And with our rolling total, with the number of topics that we've covered so far, again, with very conservative revenue increase estimates, this one is just a 5% increase in revenue. We're already up. We've already been able to, with the widget maker, project how we can increase his new net profit by 71%. Next is a drip campaign, one of Ricky's favorites. And how to create a revenue-producing drip campaign. Again, this is more about more transactions and the power of staying in touch with your clients. Once a business is following the conversion formula that we've been talking about, like we said earlier, 80+% of all of their sales occur between the 5th and the 12th point of contact. So you're not so it's just the 20% that are the now buyers and the way in the future buyers. So usually the point at the sale happens between the 5th and the 12th. The drip campaign is a way to automate delivery of the information and how to reach out and contact those and follow up with those potential prospects and potential clients. One of the things I'm excited to really be able to offer a wide variety of industries is example marketing materials that have been successfully used with some of our clients. I have about 800 peers across the world, and we basically, every time that we do one of these types of programs for someone, if it's a super successful program, and it's for an industry, maybe a new industry or something like that, we have a library that we essentially continue to update with example materials that can be used in drip campaigns for different industries. So in this drip campaign, you can have like a brochure that can be sent out. It can be sent out electronically or physically. You can do blogs. Blogs and articles are another good way to stay in touch, especially if they're informative and educational. And then there's more classic 3D versions of like postcards that can be sent out, more physical mailings, although less popular these days and a little lower conversion rate. They do still work in many industries. But these are just some examples. All the examples you'll see are coming directly out of the library that exists today. But with the drip campaign, it's really about what we talked about earlier, the buyer's journey. The drip campaign is how you can automate the way that you move people from being future buyers to now buyers. And true future buyers are really in the kind of the, what are the benefits to ownership? Do I even want this? Do I want this product or service? And it's kind of the question that you're trying to get into is, why should I buy? That's really the first question that most buyers is kind of, okay, why is this? Sometimes I don't even know that I need a product until I learn about it and why it's important. And so this is kind of the educational component. You know, why should a client potentially need or want this? Soon to be buyers, once they've been convinced that, yes, this is something that I think I need or want, now this is where the objections come in. This is where, why shouldn't I buy? You know, is it, you know, am I actually going to use it? This is where your objections start coming in, and you can start, this is where in your specific industry, you start overcoming objections to their question, and that's where their questions are at whenever they're in the objection mode. Is they're almost always they're what we call soon to be buyers, which means you have moved them down the buyer's journey. Once they become now buyers, then it's about, okay, I now know that I want this product or service. Who am I going to buy it from? And this is where your market dominating position comes in, that like we talked about with the child psychologist earlier. Being able to clearly articulate your message. Why are you different than your competitors in those arenas? And being able to take those now buyers and connect with them in a way that makes them, that has them understand the value that you could bring to their specific situation. And in some cases, even why you're not a good fit for them. You know, so because sometimes once you get to know a prospective client, you realize, you know what, I understand where you're headed. But that's not really how we offer, you know, our products and services. That's not really how we approach things. So, you know, maybe here would be a better approach for you. And so I look at this as kind of problem solving and helping them figure out, am I the right vendor, or are there other vendors out there that might be able to be more effective for you? Okay. There we go. Okay, sorry about that, guys. So let's go back to the drip campaign that we put in place for the doctor. He did not have one. The child psychologist did not have one whenever we first engaged with him. So let's take the same 300 leads that were coming in previously, and we're not going to touch. We basically didn't touch his advertising because we thought 300 leads coming in was enough. We just changed where we were taking them in the messaging to where we were taking them. So let's rerun those numbers. So out of those 300 leads, once we did the new site, basically we doubled his opt-in rate. His original opt-in rate was 10%. We doubled it to 20%. So and then his conversion rate from opt-in to client remained the same at 10%. So we really only doubled that one step, that opt-in with the initial offer. So out of the 60 in the first month, 6 became clients. That means that he still had 54 prospects that had reached out to him on his website, but had not yet engaged in his services. So what do we do with those 54 prospects? Those 54 prospects went into the drip campaign for nurturing. And based upon the statistics so far, it's looking like we can assume that 2 additional clients were converted per month. So and it was a 12-month drip campaign that we put together for the doctors. So what does that mean if 2 additional clients are continued to convert every 12 months from the drip campaign? That means that while the initial squeeze page change got 72 clients in 12 months, the drip campaign actually produced 156 new clients in that same remaining 12 months that would have never converted without it, because the likelihood that he would have gotten back to people who had signed up, or if they even knew that they were considering signing up in his original web page, he didn't know who was looking at that and deciding not to do it right now. So by changing the offer, capturing the data, and putting them into a drip campaign, we essentially more than doubled his new clients from just changing his website offering. What does that look like over 1 year? So for that first month of 54, if we convert 2 every month, then essentially this diagonal is the 12-month set of numbers for that initial 60 prospects that basically took him up on his offer. 6 became immediate clients, and then we go down every month until there were only 32. So we converted almost half of them, or just shy of half of them, by the 12th month. By month 12, he had a total of 516 prospects on, in his drip campaign by the end of month 12. And that was absolutely incredible. What that really meant was that he was now seeing converting about 30 new patients every month. And the real question became for this particular doctor was, can he even logistically handle 30 new patients a month? And that was a huge challenge. That was conversation. He was a sole practitioner, and so he actually had to turn off the marketing campaign periodically because he ended up with until he could bring on some more technicians and clinicians who could support his practice and figure out how he was going to handle the capacity. So the point being here is that it seems like a really simple thing, and it seems like a no-brainer with a drip campaign, but the people who choose to not implement it are really genuinely losing a lot of staying in front of mind and not and a lot of conversions that they could have, because even if they don't open the emails immediately, because you've been there and you've been educating and you've been interacting with your prospects in the right way about who you are and what you offer and why it's important and how it benefits them. If you're offering it in the right way, whenever they do get to the point where they're a now buyer and they want to figure out the vendor, they're like, oh yeah, I've been getting those emails for the last 6 months from, this face painter. Maybe we should have face painting instead of a bouncy castle at our next party. Again, going back to our high-end widget maker, kind of walking you through the interview process that we go through. We talked about a drip campaign, and he kind of had one in place, but it was more features focused than benefits focused, and so we really worked with him on what he needed to do and kind of worked on talking about how to get into the decision-making process for his buyers. And so he got really excited about this one. This was one of the areas where actually this number, the 10% number, he tried to tell me it was going to be 50% increase. And I was like, whoa, time. I said, let's be conservative. I said, let's just go down 10%. And if it's 50%, then, then great. Let's, then that'll be a nice upside bonus surprise. But again, in going through this interview process with the topics that we've covered with him so far, at this point, we were able to project a little over 100% increase in net new profit. And so this was really starting to shape up as something that it was opening his mind to the ideas and what we could do moving forward. So now let's talk about upsell and cross-sell. These are two topics that are sometimes interchangeable in lots of people's minds. And again, this goes back to the more transactions. Just like downselling is a point of sale strategy, upsells and cross-sells are also a point of sale strategy. And so that means that we're interacting with a now buyer. So you've gotten them down the buyer's journey. Now you're interacting with an actual now buyer. Upsells, the most famous version of it is, would you like to supersize that? It's essentially offering a higher grade, larger quantity, or larger size of an item that a customer's already expressed interest in. Cross-selling is a little is different. It's basically offering a complement to the item or service the customer is offered in. And so the other classic example of this from our Golden Arches ubiquitous company in the United States is, would you like an apple pie with that order? What most people don't know is that studies show that 34% of prospects will actually buy an additional product or service at the time of purchase if they are asked to do so. The challenge with most organizations is they don't ask. One of my favorite examples in this arena is a Econolube. This was trying to compete with some of the larger name brands who have more advertising power. This was a mom and pop shop, and essentially we came up with something that was an upsell strategy to get them from free to paid. And so we were able to dig into their numbers and figure out that they could actually offer free oil changes to their customer base. And then we also wanted to increase their perceived value by essentially articulating all of the things that they did anyway. Every time you brought in your car for a free oil change, they also did an AC test. They did a radiator test. They spun and balanced your tires. So essentially, these were all things that they were already doing, but they were never claiming credit for them because they were just saying, okay, well, yeah, okay, fine, you get these things with your oil change. So we were able to put this together and essentially send it out to their clients to keep them coming back. And the goal here was the upsell strategy to move them from a free to a paid. So they'd come in for a free service. Through the analysis process, occasionally they would find other things that potentially needed to be done from a safety perspective or from a convenience perspective, and they were able to basically convert free clients into paid clients. Groupon is another good example of this type of upsell strategy, upsell strategy as well. Another example that I'm sure we've all experienced is restaurants. The restaurants that bring out an appetizer or a wine cart before your order and offer free individual samples. And then again at the end of the evening, they can bring out a dessert cart and offer, some of them, it goes so far as to offer even free samples to everyone. And usually this works a little better in higher end restaurants, but essentially one of the restaurants we worked with, they were not doing this, and they decided to go ahead and give it a try. And they discovered that specifically with the dessert cart at the end of the meal, once they offered a free sample taste and basically engaged that reciprocity with their clients, they instantly doubled their sales of their highest margin offerings. And really all it took to implement this strategy was coming up with the idea and training their staff. The other part was they also decided to start training their staff on describing the more expensive entrees, so like the specials of the night, and also giving their personal recommendations to patrons. And to their amazement, at actually just by training their staff to describe the entrees and personal recommendations, they actually had an increase in total revenue of between 10 and 15%. And it's really interesting, the psychology behind all of this. I won't go into it today, but the reciprocity and it seems like it won't necessarily have a big impact, but it does actually have incrementally impacts that add up to big changes, for something like a restaurant or your business. Let's take something a little more outside of the box. So the restaurant examples you've been familiar with. Let's look at a dentist's office. Most dentists offer basic dental services like exams and teeth cleanings, and because of the way that they're covered by insurance, they're really not making much money on basic services. The vast majority of their revenue comes from the higher end services or the emergency services, cosmetic, root canals, crowns, fillings, braces, those types of things. And you know, 85% of, while 85% of the population has medical insurance, only 50% of the population in the United States has dental insurance. And 44% of the people without dental insurance said the only reason they don't go see a dentist is because they don't have insurance, and most dentists charge, you know, a substantively higher higher rate than the copay in order, you know, for basic cleanings. So the question we had for dentists was, okay, do you see an opportunity here? What might happen if a dentist specifically targeted families without dental insurance and offered them virtually the exact same basic services at the same out-of-pocket expense as those who do accept dental insurance? Well, this was, but the key is that their clients then got the same basic services for the same price without actually having to pay the insurance premium. So what this dentist decided to do was actually implement an advertising campaign, a no insurance, no problem, and did offer the routine exam and cleanings for $25, the normal copay that his insured clients have. And the $25 did cover his cost of treatment, so at least he wasn't going. It wasn't a loss leader; it was a neutral leader. But then he cross-sold all the additional services, and that would come to light during the initial screening process. And the beautiful part about this is he was competing with 50% of the population that other dentists are not marketing to. So his target market, you know, basically no one else was really there, because almost all dentists market to people who have insurance. And so, and again, these are examples of the type of advertising that we were able to support him with. So with the upsell and cross sells on our widget maker, we were really excited to work with him, and we actually helped him identify some possibilities for upsells and cross sells, and we're able to continue moving him down the journey of a vision for how his business could be operating, which would increase his profits. Next topic is expanding your products. So this one actually turned out to be really critically important for the widget maker, because he was so laser focused on his specific high-end widget that, and he was like, well, I don't know that I want to make anything else. And I said, okay, fine, you don't have to make it necessarily. Let's go find partners who can help you in that arena. And so, again, this gets down to more transactions and increasing your point of sale. So here's another classic example of expanding the products and services. So landscapers that are knowledgeable about this strategy frequently will either partner with or basically find a way to subcontract out things like tree trimming, sprinkler system design and implementation, decking, fencing, you know, outdoor lighting, even all the way up to swimming pool installation. So they may not want to do those things themselves, but they can go out, they can find JV partners, similar to how the florist did in the referral. The difference between the referral strategy that we talked about earlier and this strategy is that the landscaper will actually take the order. So there's referral strategy, and then there's the actual expansion of your product and service offerings, where the landscaper actually was trained by the tree trimmer how to do their estimates. And so this is more of a tightly coupled type of arrangement, joint venture arrangement, where each entity is trusting the other to basically give reasonable estimates, or at least collect enough data to come back and get estimates. But there's one point of sale in your expanded products and services strategy versus a referral model that we talked about in the earlier joint ventures. And again, you know, most of these types of referral strategies are on a revenue basis. So you know, 10% is a pretty standard norm. 25 up to 25% And in affiliate marketing strategies, there's also, it can go up to 40% online where there's very low overhead. So as a business coach, I actually use this strategy all the time. There's offerings that I have that I've been able to bring to my clients, including the e-learning system that I offer is a joint venture partnership. I know it, I know how to use it, I help my clients use it every day, but it's not necessarily my offering directly. I did not invent the whole thing, I'm just an expert at using it. I have a joint venture partnership for weekly group coaching webinars. And also with my partnership with Ricky, she and I are actually partnered where she does digital marketing review for every single one of the clients that sign on to my services. And so those are examples of not just other companies doing it, but also how as a business coach I'm actually implementing some of these strategies. Bundling. This is a very interesting topic, and really what it's all about is stop the discounting madness. And this has to do with the higher prices. So customers today shop value, not price. Prospects will pay twice the price if they believe that they're receiving 4 times the value. And that means the real key to success in marketing is to offer more value than your competition. Unfortunately, many small businesses are not good at conveying their value proposition, and therefore some of their offerings can become what we call commoditized, and so that price is the only value proposition. Why is bundling important? And bundling is where you take multiple products and services that are interrelated and you put them into a single package. And it's important because it creates an apples to oranges comparison. It gets you out of the commoditized situation where they have, widget A and widget B, which do identically the same things, and now I'm just looking at price. Unfortunately, many small businesses in particular attempt to increase their perceived value by offering discounts. By discount, 20% off of this, 30% off that. The problem with discounting is it destroys your margins if it's not done properly. And there are some industries where a mere 10% discount will potentially have, cause a business owner to have to sell 50% more product just to break even on that discounted price. And let's run you through the numbers. Why is that true? Because that's kind of a shocking statistic for a lot of people. For example, if you sell a widget for $100 and you have a 30% profit margin, then essentially your cost basis for that widget is $70. If you discount that widget just 10% and sell it for $90, unfortunately your cost basis doesn't go down. The cost to sell the product remains at $70. So now you're reducing your profit margin to 20% from 30%. That means that if you wanted to make $1,000 at a 30% profit margin, you'd have to sell 33.3 widgets. Unfortunately, by just reducing your price by 10%, now you have to sell 50 widgets in order to make that same $1,000. And that is a 50% increase of the number of widgets that you have to sell in order to get back to your original amount of profit. And it's an interesting. You always want to make sure you're running your numbers. Anytime that you're looking at your price and discounting items, it's critically important that you understand the impact it's having on your bottom line. The saddest part is most business owners don't even offer just a 10% discount. They offer 20 to 40% discounts, and then they scratch their head wondering why they're going broke, even though they're selling more product. And the other part is that studies show that from a consumer perspective, unless you're offering 25 to 40% more, 25 to 40% of a discount, you're probably not going to move someone off of a favorite vendor anyway, if they already have a vendor in this arena. What's the closely guarded secret that most successful competitors don't want you to know? Stop discounting. Stop offering your services for less money. When you discount your price, you lose the full value of every dollar because your cost of goods and your cost of delivering the service don't go down. So what you want to do is you want to innovate your business offerings through bundling so you can offer more value. A great example of that was the home builder. They essentially were able to get huge volume discounts on electronics, and so they decided to offer whole house entertainment and security systems, and have them built into the homes. This was a new home builder, and so they went ahead and built in at the time it was $22,800 installed home theater system into the living room of every home they built, and that also included fire and security system as well. But because of the discounts, the builder was able to acquire their products in volume for $6,500. The installation was pennies on the dollar because their crew handled the installation as part of the construction process. And the thing to know is that this was being done in a very moderately price point neighborhood at $150,000 price range. So now this builder decided that they could absorb those costs, pass along the cost of the materials at $156,500, but they could advertise that they were getting that the buyer was getting at standard with their home a security and home system valued at $22,800 for free because it was built into the price of the home. So at that price point, and it's a new neighborhood.
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Hello? I apologize. I think I dropped off.
We hear you, Judy. Go ahead.
Okay, my apologies. Thank you. Which builder would you buy from? Then as the orders kept flooding in, they basically determined that they could even raise the price more. They could actually make a small profit off of this new standard offering. And because the $3,500 needed to make a profit didn't prevent many home buyers from making the choice because it was spread over a 15 to 30-year mortgage. But look at what it did to their advertising. So this was one of the advertising pieces. This was their competitors, just coax cables, and then they were able to show everything that they were putting into the homes for free. And so it became some very creative advertising strategies. The other thing is that if they did find out that some of their purchasers that increased price did impact them, they still had the option of going back to their original offer price and absorbing a little bit of the cost. So I'm hoping that you're starting to see the potential here in these strategies for your own business. The last topic for today is cutting costs and expenses. And this has to do with more profits. How can you get more profits out of the revenue that you're generating? And this is going to be a little bit of a numbers exercise again, but this has to do with increasing prices. There's two ways to increase your profitability: increase your revenue and decrease your costs. Let's look at option one, which is raise your prices. Many small businesses have not raised their prices well ever, and they're scared to death that any price increase, no matter how small, will lead to mass exodus of their customers. So if you're selling a widget for $100 and you decide to increase the price by 10% to 110%, the question is will that small price increase actually lead to a loss of customers? It is true that some will leave or some will choose a different, particularly if you're not demonstrating your value well. But most of the people who leave, especially if they're ongoing customers, are usually your biggest price shoppers and actually don't show much loyalty or patronage to your business. So let's go back to the numbers we were running earlier. At a $100 widget, we needed to sell 33.3 widgets to make $1,000 in profit. At the 110% price point, that additional $10 per widget is all profit. That's a 33% profit increase that you're accomplishing by just, it's a 33% profit increase with only a 10% increase in your actual price point. So what does that mean? That means that in order to make $1,000, you no longer have to sell 33.3 widgets, you now only have to sell 25 widgets at the increased price point. So what are the break-even numbers? So let's say you raised it by 10%, you're now charging $110. You'd have to lose 25% of your existing customers over a measly 10% price increase. The reality is, it's just not going to happen. If you have any brand loyalty, if you've been providing good service, if you've been doing what you need to do to deliver, then it's just not going to happen. Of course, we err on the side of caution. Always test any price increases on a small scale basis before committing to them entirely, but to gauge the reaction. But in most cases, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised that it won't be a substantive challenge. And in fact, there's no faster or easier way to generate additional revenue in your business than by modest price increases. So with our high-end widget seller, even though he was already a high-end widget seller, we actually ran the numbers and did some what we call A/B split testing, and we determined that he could actually increase his ask price for his widget by 10% without impacting the demand on his product. So the second strategy we want to talk about in terms of getting more profits is decreasing costs. And one of the best ways to do this is to cut labor costs. I know several of you are very lean anyway. You're kind of solopreneurs or maybe one or two partners. But if you do actually have employees, that the salaries, benefits, Social Security, taxes, all the things that come with having an employee can really add up. However, if you're implementing all these strategies and you're growing, exponentially, and your growth rate is, you still have to have labor to operate your business. And so, how can you accomplish both of those things at the same time? Well, one of my favorite personal strategies is internships, and that is it's a huge opportunity. I personally was an intern my last 2 years in college, and so this is kind of right at home for me. And we offer internships for a semester or a year, seeking degree, and basically we go out and we look for sometimes graduate students, sometimes undergraduate students, depending upon the skills necessary, and we essentially train them in what we need done in our business. Schools love internships because it's a value add to their educational offerings, and as employers, we love internships because the salary that the student is getting is basically college credit, and it has the potential to save business owners tens of thousands of dollars every year if you can figure out a way to implement something like this successfully. And I know me as a student, I loved my internships. It got me out of the classroom. I'm the child of 2 school teachers. It got me out of the classroom and into the real world, starting to apply what I'd been learning. It allowed me to bring back questions into my education that were more meaningful and appropriate for how I was going to move forward. It allowed me to explore different parts of the industry that I was looking to. And most of all, when I graduated, the job market was actually pretty tough, and it gave me a jump start on my peers. I didn't really realize how much of a jump start at the time, but it did. It turns out make a substantive difference in the number of offers that I had, full-time offers I had, coming out of my graduating from college. And the other beautiful thing is that because a company's been invested time and energy in training these interns, often they're able to hire them upon graduation and have and know that they're getting a good employee. So with our widget maker, he basically, had no need for cost cutting. He was running lean and mean, running out of his house. He'd already kind of optimized his costs, so we just didn't have this impact. So this was the last strategy that we interviewed him on, and we just decided to not count any of those strategies. So the reality is those are the 8 strategies. And when you decide that you're going to implement even a subset of them, you're creating a system for your business that can generate consistent large number of leads and conversions. And the most important thing is that your business at some level can become self-sustaining, and you can start working on your business rather than in your business. And this is how you gain not only economic freedom, but also freedom of time, which is, I think, what a lot of people go into business really wanting to achieve, is that combination of economic freedom and freedom of time. So putting it all together for our high-end widget maker, all told, after the interview process, we were able to find an estimated almost $44,000 in net new profit. That was a 195% increase for him. And on the revenue side, it was actually even better. We were able to find almost $88,000 in net new revenue, or new revenue, which was a 217% increase. So at the end of this, at the end of going through the interview process, the system not only provides you with the numbers, but it also provides you with a detailed implementation plan. It'll help prioritize the activities that will have the largest impact as quickly as possible. So we go in and we estimate the amount of time to implement each of the activities, and it will help us prioritize and produce an implementation schedule that can then be followed directly, or we can strategically realign it. But at least it gives us, from a numbers perspective, what we call the low-hanging fruit. What are the easiest things to implement that'll have the largest impact? So how do we help our clients? First of all, we have a silver membership, coaching membership, and essentially this is an online membership, and it has but it also has a weekly group coaching component to it, and it has lots of different features. There's an online marketing questionnaire which helps you prioritize how you're going to move through the e-learning system. There's business training, personal development training, and the group coaching I mentioned. That $1 million marketing library that all those examples have come from, that is all available inside of the system, as well as what we call a quick start revenue generator. It's basically a predetermined list of steps that you can go through if you decide not to follow your customized online marketing roadmap. There's also a whole lot of, I've given you a very brief overview of some of the elements of the 5-step profit formula. There's a tremendous amount of training on the rest of the 5-step profit formula and other strategies. And most important, you will also get a complimentary digital marketing assessment by my wonderful partner, Webgirl Technologies, and Ricky, who's online. So that silver membership is $697 per month. If you decide that in addition to the e-learning, if you're not much of a bootstrapper, or you need an accountability partner, or you just want someone to interact with as you're going through the process, we do offer one-on-one coaching support, which allows you to jumpstart your implementation, as well as have 26 as you need them, what we call one-on-one profitability calls throughout the 12-month engagement. So it's basically 26 calls in a 12-month period. So in order to add on the one-on-one support and the jumpstart, it'll be $13.97 per month. And then we have our platinum level program, which allows you to add on a customized one-day workshop. This could be training for your employees, like we did with the restaurant owner. It could be other it could be more of a financial, like a business planning, a succession planning workshop if you're a family-owned business and you're looking for how to successfully leave a legacy behind. It could also be retirement planning, going through and figuring out whether it makes sense to set up retirement planning within your business and how that could help you as a business owner. In the future, myself and several of my coaching partners are looking to again host private in-person events that are actually will be paid events. And if you're a platinum coaching member, you basically have free access to all of our paid events. But most importantly, if you want to customize detailed business assessments, like such as the one we walked through with the high-end widget builder today, essentially, that comes with your platinum membership, and that's $19.97 per month. Now, so $19.97 per month. Let's go back and look at our widget builder and let's see what his return on investment was for making that investment with us. And essentially, his investment was 183% ROI at the end of the first year. So he's very happy. He's continuing on as a client, and we've been super excited to be able to. And we're about 6 months in, and we've actually already met this ROI, and we haven't finished implementing the strategies yet. So the projected ROI was 183, and it looks like he'll have a higher ROI at the end of implementation. So we're excited about that. The bonus offer I told you about earlier is if you sign up today, you'll receive a $250 Webgirl technology implementation credit. So after you do your free digital assessment with Ricky, then if you decide to move forward with, say, having her implement your drip campaign or having her re-implement your website with the types of strategies, the conversion equation strategies we've talked about today, essentially, my organization will give you a $250 credit to work with Webgirl Tech as your implementation partner on the digital marketing front. And you can receive a 10% off of your membership as long as it remains active. So I do apologize. I know we've run a little bit over time. So what we'll probably do is Ricky will go ahead and send out, we'll send out to you the sign up link as well as the coupon code for you guys to be able to sign up and join in if you so choose.